So, I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of Cinder, especially after what happened in Volume 3, but I was interested in seeing how Cinder would develop further in the story. Well, she's had some design changes, abilities, but as to motivations and goals, well, after Volume 3 being damaged by a close range exposure to the silver eyes, it pretty much left her useless in Volume 4, with only like a few whimpers and motivation to get revenge on RWBY. In Volume 5, we see more of her, and along with her main posse, plus Raven and Vernal, who try to obtain the Relic of Knowledge and the Spring Maiden's power. When that fails, Cinder for a time was thought to be dead. Oh no, what a tragedy. But in Volume 6, she survives and continues with her mission to retrieve the relic, alongside with her new, or rather old accomplice, Neo, everyone's favourite ice cream girl, who, in agreement, goes after RWBY, while Cinder continues her mission given by Salem. Now, we've been given a few things to help better understand her character. In the beginning, she had this intimidating presence. It seemed like she had a plan and had an end goal. She seemed like a different league above Torchwick. She may seem like a typical villain trope to some, but there was room to improve. For this, I'm going to be mixing my personal ideas with the current volume of RWBY, which is Volume 7. It ain't perfect, but it's something. Things that could have been better utilized. So enough of the summaries, let's rewrite this bad girl. Bad as in evil, not as in bad character. Okay, so what do we know about Cinder, besides wanting power? Well, she's based off Cinderella, supposedly. Okay, that's plenty to work with, interesting. Cinder could have been brought up in a not-so-great household, one where she's looked down upon. But her older sister, however, her parents see her as a perfect child, who has a productive future, who could be skilled in something, or maybe the sister could be horrible, and her parents are just neglectful. Her family could see her as an inferior child. They already have a daughter who has a bright future. Then they look into their second daughter, seeing how she isn't good as her, and thought of not caring about her, seeing how she doesn't match her older sister. This is where we could see Cinder at her lowest point, from her childhood, seeing the contrast from her to now. Here, she just wants to be loved, wanting her parents to pay attention to her, and not be seen as a waste of space. This will be more of an innocent Cinder, naive if you will. We then flash forward to where Cinder was about 14 to 18. The actual show itself doesn't give us her age for some reason, but if she's young enough to disguise as a student, then she must be slightly older than the main characters, but not by much. I mean, I don't see a 40-year-old woman playing high school dress-up, do you? Here, Cinder is more defensive against her family. She almost hates thinking about them. She may not have many friends because everyone around her age is all about Cinder's sister. Cinder may believe that she's not worth it, because if her parents don't care about her, then who would? Just to get the idea that Cinder was looked down upon, like she doesn't matter to people. One day, teenage Cinder is alone near her village. She finds a place of solitude, a place to go where things get too much around the household, or she just doesn't want to be bothered. She wants to be able to do what she wants, have the power to do so, and have nothing hold her back. Anywhere that's away from her family. She then hears a voice calling to her. Unbeknownst to her, Salem is speaking with her through a hidden seer grim. She tells Cinder how she can feel her negativity around her. She tells her that that's what summoned her. She senses she was troubled. In their conversations, they build a connection to each other. Salem shows interest in Cinder, which to young Cinder is surprising. When her actual family didn't care about her, Salem could be like a friend or an actual family figure to her, to talk to comfort her when no one else did. When Cinder is older, she'll start to have resentment to her family, no longer being afraid of them or want anything to do with them, but genuine hatred. Cinder now only wants to be in control, do whatever she wants, and not let anyone stop her, or make her feel inferior ever again. Salem asks her what she wants.
I want to be strong. I want to be feared. I want to be powerful.
She then offers to help her obtain said power, to also cut ties with her family, for Cinder to be who she wants to be. Almost like a dark fairy godmother, which works to the whole Cinderella aspect, especially with like clothing. Like her, in her flashback years, she could have like really like raggy clothes, just dirty like spares, hand-me-downs, and we could see her having a nice outfit in comparison given by Salem. It could be a nice little touch. One day, Cinder returns to find her village destroyed. Homes have been crushed, people were killed, and when she arrives home, it's too late. Her family's home is destroyed. Her family is gone. She sees a giant Nevermore at the rubble, It screeches as it ascends to the sky, leaving Cinder's home in ruins. But to Cinder's shock, she doesn't feel anything. She tries to, but she doesn't feel upset losing her family. Salem's voice returns, explaining to her that what she feels is how she truly feels, her true self. Why should she feel sorry for those who hurt her like that? To be mistreated like that for years? Why should she give them any attention when they failed to do the same for her? She tells her what she feels is who she is, and she should embrace that. Salem then gives her the opportunity to make a new life for herself, a new her. She could be whoever she wants to be, offer her that power she so desires. The Nevermore from before descends down to Cinder and lowers one of its wings. Salem tells her it'll take her to where she is. We can then transition to her early days living with Salem, how she meets Hazel, Tyrion and Watts, and just getting to know, well, the grim side of Salem, but still almost some way understand it and learn from it. Hazel could be the quiet, humble figure to comfort her when Salem gets angry. He could be like that kind uncle figure to Cinder, teaching her about keeping control of her emotions in heavy situations. To Hazel, Cinder could remind him of his sister and look out for Cinder. I just thought it'd be a nice little touch. Tyrion, well, you could have him be... Tyrion, but have him show the tenacity of executing a target efficiently, the variety of techniques from stealth to hand-to-hand combat. He may be a bit off, but he can provide Cinder the skills to take out any threats, giving her more power, you could say. Watts can see her as a waste, a mere child, but she learns from him as well, to be more strategic, cunning, to be able to adapt in any situation, showing the true power of knowledge over one's enemy. What's better than a villain? A team of villains. A family of villains who look out for one another. Not as in they care for one another, but it would disrupt future plans if one dies, so they gotta look out for each other. They were all brought in by Salem. They have their personal reasons. Whether it be their history, their personal view on the world, it differs. All these things can give Cinder more leverage over her enemies, show that she was a decent threat early on in RWBY. Make it early on, Cinder, Mercury and Emerald try to get along with Team Ruby and Juniper in Volume 2, gaining plenty of knowledge on their techniques, strategies, etc. A lot of things. Then when she obtains the Fall Maiden's powers, she'd be a bigger threat. So when Volume 4 happens, if she can't do much due to her injuries, show her feeling weak, useless, like she did back home, with the voices of her family echoing in her mind, having her train her newly formed powers, blow off some steam. Her wanting revenge on RWBY, I'm fine with. Then have it in Volume 5, as soon as Cinder sees RWBY, her eyes should have instantly started glowing with hatred, and on the assault against RWBY. While the others try to help RWBY, Mercury and Emerald etc. try to stop them. Side note, you'd think when Raven sees RWBY, she would have been thinking, Summer? Like, there's someone who looks like your deceased teammate. They're almost a spitting image of them. You'd think they'd have some conversation. A scene at least. Like, instead of Yang being in that scene with her mother, you can have the scene where RWBY, like, uses her semblance down in the tunnel and sees Raven just standing there. And RWBY tries to convince her to help more with their side and help with her brother. You know, it'd be great to have both of them on the team. There's still a chance for her. And Raven looks at her and goes, wow, you really are Summer's kid. You look like her, you sound like her, and you definitely act like her. Just be careful. That's what got her killed. Or something in those lines, I don't know, it's just, the first meetup could have been such a... Okay, I hope they get a talk at some point. Maybe in a later volume. Hopefully. Okay, back at the fight. Cinder keeps her distance from RWBY but blasts away at her, while RWBY uses her semblance to evade and fire quick shots at her. Eventually, RWBY uses her silver eyes again to subdue Cinder. Hazel tells her to get to the relic. Raven, Vernal, and Cinder leave to get it, with Cinder infuriated about losing to her again, but puts it aside for now. Everything goes as it goes, except Cinder is more infuriated now that she didn't obtain the Spring Maiden's powers, which leads to Raven versus Cinder. Seeing the tension in Cinder's eyes and her fighting moves where she's getting more stressed and infuriated of being a failure and she doesn't want to feel like that again. She doesn't want to feel inferior or disappoint Salem, she wants to prove that she's worth her match. Like she's worth, you know, keeping around, that she is something. Volume 6. Start with the origin story I mentioned at the beginning and transition to Cinder surviving and making her way back to the vault, to find it empty and continue with our mission of revenge against RWBY. And once finding her, hopefully to find the relic of knowledge as well. That's all I got for the current situation. I had a different vision of how things would play out, but that's a different video altogether. So yeah, we've given Cinder an origin story, we've given her a change of character, how Salem obtained her, keeping the fairy tale theme with some grim events, but it's ultimately up to the writers. I know it's difficult, sometimes like writing certain characters is difficult, like once you write them down, and then you're thinking, right, where are they gonna go from here? Like, if you don't have anything planned, you better come up with something, like, you know, you don't want to leave them hiatus, you don't want to just make it worth nothing. This has been Drew, those are my views, and I bid you adieu.